What's good, guys? Welcome back to All About Arsenal, and today we are discussing, is Eberechi Eze the missing piece, the missing link to Arsenal clutching that Premier League title after over 20 years? So let's get into it. Arsenal, in my opinion, I think they've had the best transfer window possible in the past 20 years. They brought on Kepa, they brought on Zubimendi, they brought on Madueke, and I still think that, you know what, he could pleasantly surprise some of us. Arsenal have also brought on Mosquera as well, and Victor Gyökeres, as we know, and he's already breaking records already. News was broken that he has broken the barrier of shirt sales, and it's a combination of things: the desperation for a strike, and also because he's clutched the beloved number 14 Thierry Henry shirt, and that has a lot of historical value. Says to me, this guy's got balls and he's coming in with confidence, and that's exactly what we want from a number 9, to come in and say, I'm taking the bull by the horn. So I highly respect that. But let me know what you think in the comments. Should they have immortalized that 14 shirt and not allowed anybody to wear it? Well, I'm going to say that Victor do that shirt justice, and I'm sure he will. Now, attention is now turned to an attacking midfielder. We know that last season, Martin Odegaard struggled in some games, and you could see, especially after his injury, and I attribute it to that. For the rest of the season, or should I say towards the end, he started to perk up a bit. He was starting to show signs of the Martin Odegaard we know. But based upon that, there was a cry from a lot of Arsenal fans that sub and bring on Nwaneri. But with Nwaneri, still a young guy, 18 years old, still finding his way in the first team. So now it looks like Arsenal turning their attention to a more experienced number 10. And I welcome this, Eberechi Eze. And there is no, and I've said this and I'll say this again, there is no football pundit, football enthusiast, football fan that does not rate Eze. Eze is a class. I'm surprised he didn't go when the season that Bayern Munich bought Elise, but obviously he wasn't going to. Palace were not going to let go of 2 of their best players in the same transfer window. But Arsenal have expressed their interest in Eberechi Eze, and today it looks like it's heating up. There's been a couple of tweets out there, even Sky News have also reported on this news as well. So let me get into it. And this was broken by Ben Jacobs, and he's a very reliable source. He's now getting into the ranks of David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano. So I just had to do that. Every time when I mention his name, you got to put that Italian spice. Right. So Ben Jacobs says Arsenal still have Eberechi Eze high in their thinking, as exclusively revealed. Some initial talks have taken place with Crystal Palace, who made it very clear Eze's 60 million plus 8 million release clause would need to be triggered or matched. Arsenal FC now considering whether to make a bid and to try at a lower number to test that position. Eze remains keen on the move. Another good source, and I think he's a good source of information, Eduardo Hagen, I believe it is, he said there's a feeling at Arsenal that Eze's best position is at number 10, an area that Odegaard and Nwaneri operate in. Eze can play on the left, and Arsenal may view the Palace forward as a multifunctional attacker rather than just a number 10. Palace are aware of Arsenal's interest. The Gunners are understood to value Eze lower than his 68 million release clause. Of course they would, because Arsenal want to get the best deal, and Crystal Palace also want to get the most out of him as well. 68 million release clause and want to negotiate a deal beneath that. I did a video before which was about 4 reasons why Arsenal will get Eze this window. One of the reasons I pointed out is that Arsenal already have a good working relationship with Crystal Palace. We saw them in Ketia, we saw them Rob Holding and Chamaka, but obviously that was some time ago. But my point is that we have a good business relationship with them. It's not like the relationship we have with Sporting, and best believe this is probably the last time Arsenal will ever do with Sporting again, based upon what we've experienced with Victor Gyökeres, but we got that over the line. Now, this is a very interesting tweet to me personally, because it said that Eze is not just a number 10 but multifunctional attacker. And that says a lot, only because there's been huge links with Rodrigo. But as far as I'm concerned, and if anybody's saying anything else, I don't know what their source is, that Rodrigo himself has not even had the conversation with Xabi Alonso, his father, who is also his agent. They've not even sat down to have this conversation. So I don't know where all this information is coming from. But one thing I will say, if Arsenal go for Eze, that is it. We're not going for Rodrigo in the same window as well. If that is the case, Arsenal would have to sell at least 3 to 4 players to get that done. I'm confident about Eze because if you remember, Fabrizio Romano made it very clear that all of Arsenal's spending spree, and it's been brilliant, their deal for Eze was outside of that, which just goes to show you how important that Eze is to the plans of Arsenal and for us lifting a trophy. Multifunctional attacker. So that means, as we know, this guy can play on where? He can play on the left, and the left has been struggling. And I began to do, I was going through a lot of videos and analysing Victor Gyökeres, the way he plays. And I know I'm going off a slight tangent, but check it. Gyökeres tends to bend. He tends to drift in on the left-hand side, and the left-hand side for us is very weak. If there's anything to go by in terms of his style of play, yes, there's going to be adjustments. If we don't have a strong left-hand side or left-hand attacker, which has been lacking, almost all of our heat maps, if you look at it, Saka, Odegaard side, Saka, Odegaard side, let's get to a point where it's Rice, Eze operating. That just opens up. It opens up games for us. And it means that Saka won't be getting attacked so much. Saka won't be getting so many harsh challenges because now the ball, the attack is going to be distributed into different parts of the pitch as well, right? Another thing to also have in mind as well, and I've said this, but let me know what you think in the comments. I think Eze can bench Odegaard. And some people say, oh my God, Arteta won't do that to his skipper. Listen, Arteta's under the cosh. Probably not under the cosh from the board, because I believe the board are happy with him. You have qualified for Champions League in the past 4 or 5 years. You have consistently finished second, which brings in revenue of roughly about 175 million. You got to the semi-final of the Champions League. He probably hit all the targets, and probably one of the targets was to bring the Premier League. He probably did all of that, barring that. I believe personally the board are happy with him because he's bringing them money. But there's another thing, he himself as a coach and the fans, but he himself, you can see he wants that Premier League title desperately. Do you think if it means he has to make certain rotations in his squad to get what he wants, he's not going to do it? He's going to look at Martin Odegaard and say, oh, this is my son, I'm going to have mercy. He's not going to care. Let's be honest, last season, if Eze was there and Odegaard was not performing, he would have subbed him for Eze a long time, we know that. And the only reason I'm saying this, I was listening to a couple of, people online as well talking about, oh, Eze would never bench Odegaard, this, that, and the other. Arteta wants to win. The players want to win. If you see the pre-season tour, right, and a couple of the Arsenal players that have been interviewed, like random 30 seconds, 15 seconds, out the mouth of Saliba and Saka, we want to win. There's got to a point they want to win. So if somebody needs to be taken off and rotated, let it happen. Eberechi Eze, I'm going to say this. We land Eze, I am not afraid of Liverpool. I don't care if they get Isak. Eze is there. Eze on the left, Gyökeres in the middle, Saka on the right. Mate, they're cooked. Teams are under pressure now. Why were teams so predictable, or why were Arsenal so predictable to teams? We always operated on the right. So obviously any opposition manager, coach is saying, take Saka out the game, they're not going to do anything. Martinelli will just run at you, he's not going to do nothing. With Eze on the team now, Eze will start on the left. If Odegaard is not cooking, why don't you drop Odegaard in that number 10, then bring on someone on the left? Trust me, it opens up the games for Arsenal even more. So all this talk about Eze won't bench him, Eze will bench him. Arteta wants to win and he's hungry. Right, there's another interesting article, and this is about Oliver Glasner, and as you know, he is the head coach manager of Crystal Palace. And this was broken by TalkSport. It says, and Eagles boss Glasner shared those feelings as he outlined his frustrations in an interview with Austrian outlet Kronenzeitung. And I absolutely butchered that, sorry. My fault, I didn't really practice this. Kronenzeitung, right, I butchered it. But the point I want to make here is this. When a coach is stepping out blatantly and he's expressing his frustrations at his board, that says a lot. So for him to do this, you know that things are happening within Palace. But let me go. It says, even though all the players are still here, this is what Glasner saying, we haven't made the most of the transfer window yet, says Glasner. And the reason why he's going to say this, we know I believe they just missed out on Europa and they've secured Conference League football, which is probably a player like Eze wouldn't want. So that's another, something that might tip it over the balance. Said, I was promised that we would be more active and bring in new players earlier this year. As of now, I have 17 outfield players. I hope we don't lose any more. Probably talking about Eze. If that happens and we get 4 new ones on deadline day like last year, another false start is possible. So basically what he's saying, if we get a bunch of players on the deadline day, there's not going to be a lot of time to integrate them. That's why it's very important for teams to do their business in the pre-season period or even before. That's why you can see what Arsenal's trying to do, get everything done early. One player Glasgow will be desperate not to lose is the superstar Eberechi Eze. The silky midfielder is wanted by Arsenal as Gunners boss Mikel Arteta looks to avoid finishing second in the Premier League for a 4th straight campaign. TalkSport understand discussions have already taken place on the player side with senior figures in the Gunners recruitment and football department present. Eze is thought to be keen on the move and personal terms are not expected to be an issue should Arsenal press ahead with the move. The 27-year-old has a 68 million release clause, although Arsenal may look to see if a deal can be done for a lower fee. So one of the things that's news that's actually brought out is that Crystal Palace is saying they want 35 million up front. Arsenal could be able to do that without a doubt. Some people saying Arsenal can't do that. All I'm going to say, for the people saying Arsenal can't do that, how much knowledge do you have of their current financial situation? If you do, let me know. I will be ecstatic to hear that. But to facilitate this move, it looks like, and the popular opinion is, Arsenal probably have to let go of one of their players. And the main person looks to be is Leandro Trossard. Said that Dortmund are ready to hand Trossard a route out of Arsenal. It has been claimed. The winger is understood to be stalling on a new Arsenal contract as he considers his options. He's 30 years old, just have that in mind, with the Gunners still potentially set to strengthen in his position. Trossard played regularly last season as he stayed fit while others struggled to do the same, and I'm so grateful that he stayed fit. We struggled in attacking. It got to the point, I started bringing players like Tierney to start doing overlaps to play as a winger. That's how bad it was for Arsenal. I'm going to ask this question. Guys that are listening, Arsenal are 1-0 down. Pivotal game, and we need to get back in the game. You look on your bench, there's Martinelli and there's Trossard. Who do you bring on? I know who I'm going to bring on. Trossard has shown many times off the bench, proved himself. He's not the greatest starter, but when he comes off the bench, he's a great impact player. He reminds me of an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. A lot of you, well, in terms of the young ones, probably wouldn't know. He was nicknamed the super sub because he can come on and make things happen. And I see Trossard has elements of that in his game as well. It would be a shame to lose Trossard. I think we should keep him, but he's still on his new contract. And as he's 30 now, I know Arsenal are probably going to offer him like a 1-year extension. Let's read on. So Trossard played regular last season as he stayed fit while others struggled to do the same. That included minutes up front, though he's likely to find that kind of action harder to come by with the arrival of Victor Gyökeres. Trossard can play as a false 9, but he's not an out-and-out number 9. Arsenal have also added winger Noni Madueke and could also complete a move for Eberechi Eze. According to Sky Germany, Trossard is among the wingers being considered by Dortmund after the sale of Jamie Gittins to Chelsea. Former Chelsea loanee Sancho is another option, potentially returning for a third spell at the Signal Iduna Park. He would be a younger alternative to Trossard, who turns 31 in December. Trossard still has 1 year left on his Arsenal deal, with the club holding an extra 12-month option. However, if there's an indication that he doesn't plan to extend, the club may decide that it's time for them to cash in. Arsenal are believed to value Trossard around 17 million. This is less than the sum they rejected last summer from Al Ittihad, though it was in part due to the timing of a move, making it all impossible for them to bring in a replacement. I see it like this. Arsenal's in a position where they need to win the Premier League. Yes, business is very important, and I do agree, if there's an agreement for Trossard, Arsenal can accelerate talks for Eberechi Eze. As I know, Arsenal, in regards to their PSR discipline, are in a good place. Remember, once again, Fabrizio Romano said any deal for Eze was outside of what they're already doing. I believe Arsenal are definitely going to go in for this. There's a couple of weeks left on the transfer market, but however, how long do we want to wait? We want him to come in as quick as possible and integrate. It probably won't be that hard for a player like Eze because he already has our style of play and he's already a Premier League great or veteran in his own right. But let me know what you think in the comments. Can Arsenal bring this over the line? Do Arsenal look for an alternative, or is it only Eberechi Eze? And what do Arsenal do with Leandro Trossard? Do you sell Trossard? Do you keep Trossard? Or do you let go of Martinelli? The issue is Martinelli's still young. He's 22. He's 22, 23. So, barring that, he has a higher ceiling than Trossard, who is peaked. He's in the reds of his peak game. But let me know what you think in the comments. Until the next video, peace.